For the last 30 years, if you were building a global business, you kind of had a map. It was a reliable playbook built on this idea of free trade and a flat world. The rules were pretty clear, and if you played the game right, you could win. But what happens when that map is suddenly completely useless? Well, that's the world we're in right now. The old playbook is gone.
So this old map, the best way to picture it was something called the smiling curve. The logic was super simple. You wanted to escape the low-value stuff in the middle, manufacturing, and get to the high-value ends. So you'd focus on R&D and branding on one side and sales and marketing on the other. You know the drill. Innovate in California, brand in New York, and manufacture in Shenzhen. For decades, this was without a doubt the path to profit.
But, as author and strategist Yu Sheng puts it, that entire way of thinking, it's been shattered. It's completely collapsed. The world that it described, it just doesn't exist anymore. That reliable map we all got used to is obsolete, and it's left founders trying to navigate a pretty treacherous new landscape, basically blind. So how do we even begin to navigate this new reality? Well, that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to chart a new course. First, we'll dig into why the old map broke. Then, we'll explore this strange new world we're in, the techno-feudal era. After that, we'll find a new compass with something called the Global Trinity, set a brand new destination, Twin Peaks survival, and finally, we'll get into the most critical new mindset, why you have to build your own dock.
All right, so first things first, what exactly broke? The old world, it really ran on a simple promise. Just make a better product at a lower cost, and you could compete anywhere. But that entire foundation of fair, open trade has completely crumbled. It's been replaced by a system that is way more complex and, honestly, a lot more predatory.
So if that flat, open world is gone, what replaced it? What's the new operating system for global business? Well, the answer is kind of a throwback to a much, much older time.
Welcome to the age of techno-feudalism. Yeah, it sounds dramatic, and that's because it is. This concept, which was really popularized by Yanis Varoufakis, argues that capitalism hasn't just changed, it's actually morphed into something that looks an awful lot like a medieval feudal system. And understanding this shift is the new key to survival. So what on earth is techno-feudalism? Okay, imagine the most valuable territory isn't land, but digital platforms. In this world, tech giants like Amazon and Google, they're the new feudal lords. Their cloud services are the digital fiefdoms, and they extract rent in the form of fees and data from every single person operating on their turf. Power isn't just about having money anymore. It's about controlling the very digital ground we all stand on.
And there's a really powerful historical parallel going on here. This whole shift is happening because the old empire, the American-led global order that guaranteed free trade, is fading. And just like when Rome fell, the collapse of essential authority doesn't create universal freedom. No. It creates a fractured landscape of a bunch of smaller competing powers.
So in this new landscape, the cloud giants are the new nobility. They own the digital infrastructure, the roads, the ports, the marketplaces. If you want to do business, you have to operate on their land, and you have to pay their tolls. They get to set the rules of their own digital kingdoms.
And every feudal system, it needs a source of legitimacy, right? Some belief that justifies the Lord's power. Back in the Middle Ages, it was the divine right of kings, ordained by God. Well, today, the new faith is AI. It's this seemingly magical, all-powerful force that grants these new tech lords their authority and an almost divine right to shape our world.
Okay, so if we're living in this dangerous, fractured world of digital fiefdoms, how in the world do we navigate it? The old compass is broken. We need a new one. And Yu Sheng proposes a framework for this new map. He calls it the Global Trinity.
See, the world isn't unipolar anymore. Instead, every global company is being pulled by three totally distinct gravitational forces. You can think of them as functions. First, you've got the US, which provides innovation, the foundational AI, the cloud platforms, the big models. Second, you have Europe, providing regulation. They're setting the global rules on everything from data privacy to AI ethics. And third, you have China, providing the industrial support, the supply chains, the engineering talent, the manufacturing scale. And here is the absolute key takeaway. You don't get to just pick one zone. You are operating in the complex, often contradictory overlap between all three of them. Your tech stack might be American, your compliance standards European, and your supply chain Chinese. Success now means you have to consciously manage your position inside this messy, tripolar reality. Okay, so we've got the new landscape and a new compass, but that's only half the battle. We need a new destination. The old goal of climbing that smiling curve is obsolete.
The new one is what Yu Sheng calls Twin Peaks survival. This right here visualizes the new strategic imperative. So, forget the single smiling curve. The future belongs to what Yu Sheng calls amphibious species. These are companies that can survive and thrive in two completely different ecosystems at the same time. The two peaks on this curve, they represent success in both the US-led and the China-led technology spheres.
I mean, think back to that old smiling curve. The whole goal was specialization. You picked one end of a single globalized value chain, and you focused on being the best at R&D or the best at branding. You were living in one world.
Well, the Twin Peak model just flips that logic completely on its head. It is no longer about specialization within one system. It is all about resilience and adaptability across two parallel systems. It's about building the capacity to exist in a world that is fundamentally and maybe permanently split. So, if Twin Peak survival is the strategic model, what's the actual mindset a founder needs day to day? Well, this brings us to our final and maybe the most important idea. It's the difference between looking for a ticket and building your own dock.
The old mindset was all about being a passenger. You'd go find a ticket on someone else's ship. You'd build your app on their platform, use their supply chain, ride their market access. The new imperative is to build your own dock. That means owning your infrastructure, your resilience, your own choices. You stop being a passive passenger and you become the captain of your own fate. And why is this so critical? Because in this new era, relying on someone else's platform is an existential risk. As Yu Sheng warns, even the most luxurious ship, a dominant cloud platform, a seamless supply chain, will eventually hit the geopolitical icebergs of our time. And when it does, being a passenger is the most dangerous place to be. So this is it. This is the ultimate takeaway for navigating this new world. The old map is gone. The destination isn't one peak, but two. And the strategy is no longer about finding a ticket on someone else's ship. It's about building your own dock. Because in this age of techno-feudalism, the only real security you have is the one you build for yourself.